Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to have you here for our online class about search engine optimization. Just while we're waiting for the last few people to arrive and to make sure that all the technology is working, in the questions box that you should have in front of you, if you just want to put your name and where you're dialing in from this afternoon, that would be great. And we'll get started in a few minutes. Afternoon, Kate and Linda as well from Huntley. And who else? We've got Heather in Auckland, welcome. Heidi from Te Amutu, Sam and Caro, welcome guys. We've got a lot of people tuning in, which is awesome. And Alicia from Matamata, Joe from Cambridge, welcome. For those of you who've just arrived, if you want to drop your name and where you're from into the question box, that would be great, just so we can make sure everything's working. And Emma from Sydney, welcome Emma. Grace as well from Tauranga. There's heaps of you here. Excellent. Jess in Queenstown, welcome. And Liz in Wellington. Awesome. And Ron, welcome as well. Simon in Brisbane, great to have you. Cool. Hey, let's get underway. It's awesome to have so many of you here, and we're really excited to be able to share lots of the really good SEO content that we've got, and also just to help you guys out with being found. And we know that for lots of you, search engine optimization, SEO, it's kind of a little bit of a weird thing and something that's a little bit hard to understand, but it's actually, if you do the basics really well, it's actually quite simple. So we want to really simplify that for you today. So to get started, SEO is much like a delicious, rich soup. And what we mean by that, in the soup, there's over 200 ingredients, and different things give you different parts to your soup. So for example, you know, if we add chili to a soup, it changes the flavor. Some things will make small changes, some things will make large changes, and that's exactly the same with SEO. Sometimes you can make a change and it will make a massive impact onto your Google ranking. Other times you can make a massive change and it doesn't change too many things. So we want to today give you some help on what are those key things that make the massive changes to how your soup is going to be tasting, how your SEO is going to be going. So something really important to remember with SEO and with Google is that Google is working for the searcher. So Google's not working for businesses, and for the people who are wanting to be shown, they're actually working for the searcher. So that's something to keep in mind, in that we need to be giving them really good content, really good information on our websites so that they can provide good results for their searcher, because that's who they're trying to help out. So make sure that you are really thinking about that. Google's not there for you, unfortunately, it's there for the searcher, so we've got to work quite hard to make sure we're giving Google what they're wanting. Cool. Just before we jump into this, if you do have any questions throughout, feel free to ask them in the questions box, and I've got Grant here with me, and he'll come through with some answers, and then at the end we'll also have question and answer time as well, so feel free to ask them as we go, but also at the end we'll be having a time to answer them as well. So what you've got in front of you, and it might be a little bit hard to read, we'll zoom in on it in a second, but we've got a Google search here, a really typical Google search, and this is for the term Nelson accountant. So this is for someone who's looking for an accountant in Nelson. So let's just zoom in and we'll quickly just identify there's kind of three key parts to a Google search. So part one, and this is the bit that's always at the top, are their Google ads. So you can see here there's 4 businesses that are paying money to Google to be found right at the top of a Google search. And they're indicated that they're an ad because next to their name they've got the little green box that says ad. Okay, so they're paying to be there, and we'll talk about that a little bit. The next section further down the page, and this is something that's come about in the last few years, is the Google Maps section. And this is linked to a thing called Google My Business. Now, Google, again, there's a whole bunch of things that go into why these people show up here. And these maps only show up when there's a location-based search. So if you put a name of a location in there, then these are more likely to show up. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. But so that there is from a thing called Google My Business. And then the last section of a Google search is what we call the organic listings. So organic listings mean Google has looked at your website or the website of these businesses and decided that it should rank them on a Google search, and it puts the one that it thinks is the best for the searcher at the top. So it's going to put the most useful for its searches at the top of the Google ranking. So here's how it works. So if someone searches for Nelson Accountant, then Google goes and checks your website has exact content to that term or the term that's searched. For example, in this case, Nelson Accountant. It says, cool, does it have that content? Yes, it does. I'm going to rank it higher in Google. Or it says, does it have that content? No, I'm going to rank it lower in Google, or in some cases, not at all. So that's the basis of how a Google search is, how the results come up. So firstly, your business name. So being found for your business name is super important, and it's a non-negotiable for having a website. So the easiest way to check that, jump into Google, search your business name, and make sure that you come up first for your business name. So here's an example, and this is for us here at Rocketspark. So when you search Rocketspark, we come up first, our website, and then on the right-hand side there as well, you've got our Google My Business listing. Again, as I said, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's really important that that's the absolute minimum when you are trying to sort out SEO, is that you're ranking for your business name. Now, if you're not ranking for your business name, you need to get it into the text content on your website as quickly as possible, and we'll explain how to add those keywords in a little bit. So the second thing, Google My Business, which I said we'd chat about. So this is how you would see that on a Google search. And there's a few things to think about here. So it's most of the time Google actually sets these up for us. What it does is it trawls the internet, and it finds all the information from lots of different places, from your website, from directories, all those sorts of things, and then it puts them on a map. Now sometimes it's wrong, it's got some of the wrong information in it, so you need to make sure that that's corrected, and sometimes it's put it up there and we haven't actually asked it to. So when you look at a Google My Business listing, and here's an example again using Rocketspark, you can see we've gone in, we've claimed our listing, we've edited all of our details so they're all correct. We've even got some Google reviews on our Google My Business listing as well, and we've put some photos in there and all that sort of thing. Here's an example of one that hasn't been claimed yet. So if you have a look at this listing, you can see just down under the name, so this is an accountant in London, it's got the address, the phone number, it says suggest an edit and own this business. So if it says own this business, the Google My Business listing hasn't been claimed. And so if that's your business, if you search your business name and that comes up, you need to click on that own this business, it'll take you through the process, and then Google will actually send you a physical postcard in the mail, or they actually give you a call and to verify that you're a real business. So it'll take you through that whole process, and we've got support guides on how to do that, but that's really, really important to make sure you do that, especially for local businesses. So if you're servicing a specific location, you can set it so it services the whole country or wider, but if you're a local business, that's really important. And adding your business hours and your website and all those sorts of things in there is important as well. So that's the first thing around Google My Business. So before we kind of kick into the keywords and that sort of thing, what is a keyword? What does that even mean? So moz.com, which is a really great company that do a lot of work in this area. So they say keywords are ideas and topics that define what your website content is about. In terms of SEO, they're the words and phrases that a searcher will put into a search engine, and sometimes they're also called search queries. So it's actually what are people searching for when they are using search engines like Google. So firstly, let's talk about local keywords. So as an example here, here's 3 different locations and ranging from really large to quite small. So for example, Auckland accountant, there's probably a high number of searches for the term Auckland accountant. biggest city in the country, and lots of accountants there. So there's high searches for it. However, there's also really high competition because there's hundreds and probably thousands of accountants based in Auckland. Nelson Accountant, slightly smaller city, and it's going to have less searches for it, but it's also going to be less competitive. So something like that might be really useful for a local business. And then Cambridge Accountant, small town, low competition, and low number of searches. So it actually should be really easy to rank for that. So this is an example of like location, and these are really specific. So if I'm searching for Cambridge Accountant, I'm looking for an accountant in Cambridge, obviously. So these are kind of the location-based searches that people might come across. And for you, obviously the industry you're in and the region you're in as well. So what about some longer keyword phrases? So historically, keywords have often just been one word, and now we're starting to get into longer phrases. So, for example, potentially it could be Auckland International Tax Accountant. So someone who specializes in international tax, and someone in Auckland is looking for an accountant who specializes in that. If that's your specialist industry, if you've got those niche markets that you work with, then those can be really good kind of longer phrases that you might want to look at getting. And obviously in a place like Auckland, there's going to be less searches for that than, say, Auckland Accountant. However, if someone's searching for Auckland International Tax Accountant and that's what you do, then that's a perfect search result that you want to be showing up for. For Nelson, potentially Nelson Small Business Accountant, these longer phrases, these are called long tail SEO words. And we will talk about these in more depth in our advanced SEO online class, which I'll explain how you can sign up for that near the end. But the longer tail, so long phrases, is sometimes a really good way of getting those searches that people are making for really specific services and products. And then the last one, something like Cambridge Farming Accountant, just by adding that word farming in there, it makes it longer, makes it less competition, and so might make it a little bit easier to rank for as well. So the next question to always ask, are people searching for that? And I've got a really interesting example that we came across with a client of ours who was a physiotherapist. And they'd gone through and done their search engine optimization, and what they've done is they've optimized their website for words like health, fitness, well-being, injury, stretch, things like that. And I challenged them on that, and I said, hey, look, if you were searching for a physio in that town, then what would you search for? And they were like, oh, well, I'd search for Nelson Physiotherapist. And I said, exactly, and that's what everyone else is searching for too. Nelson Physio or Nelson Physiotherapist, injury rehab, Nelson, sports massage, Nelson. And so even though those first set of words are connected in a kind of an industry way, those are the types of things, if you said what industry you're in, they might say health, fitness, well-being. Actually, the words that people are searching are for the location and the service that they offer. So don't get caught up in the first set of words, which is the kind of the words that connect that as a industry, but it's more specific. What are people searching? And the easiest way to figure that out is say, if I was searching for this, what would I search? And those are probably the keywords that other people are searching for as well. And so a way to find out what people are searching, because sometimes it can be hard, is to use the Google keyword tool. Now, I'm going to really quickly run through this, but if you just search in Google for Google keyword tool, it'll come up and you can sign up and get going on it. So this is the page where you'll get sent to, and this is actually, you need to sign up for a Google AdWords account. And so before we were looking at a Google search, at the top there was the AdWords that people pay for. The keyword tool is actually hidden in the Google AdWords account. Now, you don't need to pay for it, it's free. So even though you're signing up for AdWords, you're not actually signing up to run AdWords, it's just an account. And you can then run AdWords if you need to. But we're really just using this for the keyword tool. And once you jump in, you can actually put in the keywords that you're wanting to be ranking for and then see how many people are searching for them. Or also it can say, hey, these are the keywords you think. Have you thought about these keywords as well? And give you some examples of other keywords that you can look at targeting. So here's an example of something that, a search that we We did. I'll just jump back a second here. Here we go. And so, for example, we search Waikato accountants and Cambridge accountants. And really interestingly, Cambridge accountants gets between 10 and 100 searches a month. Now, Google don't want to be too exact with that, so that's why they give a range of 10 to 100, and there's medium competition for that. Interestingly, no one is searching for Waikato accountants, and that's because as searchers we want, closer to home kind of searches. So no one's searching for regions; they're more searching specifically for locations and towns. If you're in a place like Auckland or larger cities, potentially it's suburbs within those larger cities as well. So make sure you're thinking about those because there's a lot of people living in some of the suburbs doing searches specifically for that. So there's an example of I've put in my keywords and it's given me the average monthly searches, and basically what that says is if there's lots of searches for something, that's the one you're wanting to be ranking for. However, if the competition was really, really high, you might then say, actually, I'm okay with trying to rank for some of the lower search terms because I've got more chance of ranking for them. So just something to think about there. And if you want to use that keyword planner, as I said, sign up for an AdWords account and it's sitting in there. So content is the most powerful ingredient. When we were talking before about the soup analogy with SEO and like hundreds of ingredients in there, content is the most powerful ingredient, similar to the mighty chili. So if you add a lot of chilies to a soup, it's going to change the flavor dramatically, and that's what it is with content as well. Text content on your website is dramatically increasing your chances of being found in Google searches and dramatically increasing your Google ranking. So let's just quickly talk through some of the really key elements of that. So the first thing to note is that Google's search algorithm is really smart. So when you do a search in Google or someone does a search in Google, there's a lot of information going on in the background for Google. So don't underestimate how smart Google's algorithm is, and we need to do a little bit of work. What that does mean though is it's very hard to trick the system as well. So we need to make sure that you're doing quality content on your website for its search algorithm to do its job. So the second thing is that Google rewards high quality text content on all of your pages. So don't get too focused just on the home page. Across all of your website, it rewards high quality text content. And we'll talk about what that looks like in a second. And Google likes lots of text. And sometimes we'd like to remove text because we don't want it to appear too wordy. However, Google likes text content because it can figure out what the website is about. However, it needs to be written well. It can't just be thrown together. It has to be really well written, and it needs to be rich in relevant keywords and phrases. So that it needs to have those keywords and phrases put into the text content. So let's have a look at how you could potentially do that. So putting the right keywords multiple times on a page in your content is the way to get the most powerful results out of your content. So here's a few things to think about. So the first one is headings. So especially the H1 on your page. So that's the main big heading. And so we've got an example here from Canyons. They're an adventure company based in the Coromandel Peninsula. And their key thing is canyoning. That's what they do. So when people are searching for canyoning, New Zealand, they want to be showing up for that. So you can see we've highlighted here in their H1, and their H1 is New Zealand's ultimate canyoning adventure. It's got the word New Zealand in it and the word canyoning. You can see we've got that keyword in there. Now, we don't want to put the keyword in there 4 times. We don't want it to say canyoning, 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 canyoning. It needs to feel really natural. So just one time in your main heading is good, but making sure it's in that main heading is really important. You can see here on this example as well, they've put it in their subheading, and they've also got it as a page name as well, and we'll talk about page names in a second. So first thing, headings, make sure those keywords, and you can have multiple keywords in there. If you had another key service or another key location or another key product, you can have 2 of them or 3 of them in a heading, but making sure they're there is really important. So this next one is about paragraph text. So this is actually the text content on your page, and you're wanting it at least 3 to 5 times per page. If you have a lot of content on your page, then you can have it more times. You don't just want to put it in there 100 times. Google's not going to like that. It needs to feel really natural in there, but making sure it's actually in your text content is really important. Now here's a little trick about finding out how many times a keyword appears on your page already if you're not sure. If you're on a PC, if you hit Control F while you're on your website, a little window will pop up and you can actually search for the word on that page. And this is how we do it. So when we were looking for this at this Canyon example, we just put Control F on a PC, and if you're on a Mac, Command F, and a little finder window will appear, and then you can actually search on your on that page for how many times that word appears. So that's a really good way to see that. And if you're doing longer phrases, you put the whole longer phrase in, it will tell you how many times that is appearing on the page as well. So there's a little trick for you to actually find out how you're doing with that at the moment. And then if you want to add more in, then that's the time to jump in and do it. So that's for paragraph text, actually adding the keywords in there as well. So buttons and internal text links is the next thing. So this example you've got in front of you, the button down the bottom, hopefully you can see it. It says this client is trying to rank for the term Auckland and Queenstown scaffolding, and so you can see they've got a button there that says Auckland and Queenstown scaffolding. If you have a look at the text, they've got it in the heading, and they've also got it throughout that text as well. When I was checking it, they've got the word scaffolding 14 times on their homepage. They've got each of their locations 10 times, temporary fencing, which is another service of theirs, 7 times, safety nets are 8 times on their homepage. So, but it feels really, really natural. It's not stuffed in there, and they've got a long page so they can fit those keywords in. But buttons and internal text links is really valuable as well. Google sees those keywords in the buttons and text links, and then knows that that's what you're trying to rank for. And finally, page names, so the actual address of the pages. So you can see here, this is one of our clients who does window repairs, and so they've got a page that's called window repairs, and then they've got a main heading on their page that's window repairs, and then throughout their content on that page it talks about window repairs and the locations that they're doing that. And so that's another really good way to make sure you're being found for key things. And again, this is a bit of an advanced thing where you're setting up what we'd call landing pages for specific phrases that you're wanting to rank for, either locations or products or services. And again, we'll talk about this more in our advanced SEO classes, which I'll share those links with you in a few minutes. And so finally, as I mentioned before, each page needs good content, not just the homepage. So some people focus a lot on the homepage, and absolutely the homepage is really important from a Google point of view, but actually making sure that all of your sub pages are ranking really well and you've got those keywords on there is really important as well. So make sure you're doing this on all of your key pages, not just the homepage. So the question we get asked often is, how long do I need to wait to see results? Now, what we've found is that often when you've got a brand new website and a brand new business that Google's never heard of before, it can take quite a few months to be found in Google. At other times, it doesn't, and that's normally if you've got lots of really good content. It can actually happen quite quickly. So how long does it take to see results? A brand new business, it can take a little while. If you've got an existing website and Google's already indexed it, it's already coming up in a Google ranking, but you want to lift it higher, sometimes we see that it happens within a few days. So sometimes you can make a change. We've seen it as quick as 24 hours that you make a change and the result, your result increases for that search term. Sometimes you might see an initial boost and then it gradually over time increases and moves up the ranking. So if you're on page 2 for a search term, you might see it jump to page 1 quite quickly, but down lower on page 1, and then slowly over time it works its way up. Sometimes it might take a few weeks or even a few months to be showing up as well. So that's sometimes just how it is, and often this depends on how competitive it is, what all your competition are doing, how much time they're spending on their SEO, things like that. And sometimes you might not see any results. And if you don't see any change, you might have to do some more work on your SEO. And unfortunately, SEO is an ongoing thing. It's not really something you can just set and forget. It's really important to get your foundation really strong, but you actually do need to keep working on it and creating new content and things like that. So if you don't see any results, then go back to the start, look through those keywords, do some more keyword research. Check out what some of your competitors are doing and see how they're getting high results as well. So I want to give 5 key takeaways before we finish off. And if you kind of take nothing else, take these 5 things, and they'll put you in good stead to have a well-ranking website. So number 1, so know the exact phrases people are searching to find businesses like yours. So there's no point in trying to do all this SEO stuff for phrases that people aren't actually looking for. So make sure you know the phrases people are searching for. As I said, use the keyword tool. Also just ask people who aren't inside your business, because often when you're inside your business, you're a little bit close. So yeah, ask some people outside of your business, hey, if you were searching for my business in Google, what would you search for? And that's a good way to find out the exact phrases that people are searching for. So that's number 1. Number 2, Google My Business and the right local keywords are a must for targeting local searches. So if you're trying to service a local area, doesn't matter how big it is, but if there's a location base to it, then Google My Business and making sure you have those locations on your website are really, really, really important. And we'll talk a bit more about if you've got multiple locations you're wanting to rank for. We'll talk about those again in our advanced class as well. So make sure if you're interested in that, you sign up for that. Number 3, have plenty of good quality content on your website. So don't go easy on the text content. The more text content you've got on your website, the better. The more pages you have, the better. The more blogs you have, the better. All that stuff adds together, as long as it's really good quality as well. Sometimes, as I said earlier, when we come to design, we go, actually get rid of that content, get rid of that content. There's too much content. But if it's nicely presented and good quality content, then it's going to be really useful. Number 4, make sure your business name is present in your content and that you're ranking for it. So as I said, check that you're ranking for your business name, and if you aren't, then jump onto the page, do that find thing, so Control F on a PC or Command F on a Mac, and actually put your business name there and see how many times it shows up. You'll be amazed to see how many clients we talk to and they don't have their business name anywhere on their website. It's in their logo, but it's not anywhere else, and Google can't rank for your business name if you don't tell it what your business name is. And point 5, make sure the phrases people search for are present multiple times in your website's content. So don't just put it in there once. Don't just put it in the heading. Put it in the heading, put it in the paragraph content, put it on the buttons, put it in the page URL. Make sure it's in your metadata, the back-end data in your Get Found section. Make sure it's in there as well. So it can be on your pages multiple times, and that's your best chance of being found for those search terms. So if you need additional help on this, there's a few things you can do. So first of all, if you go to rocketspark.com/help and dive into our help center, there's a whole section there that's on SEO and reporting. So if you need to jump in there and have a look, there's a really good help guide in there. It kind of breaks down all the things to do for SEO. So feel free to jump in there and have a look at that. The second thing is you may actually need an SEO specialist, and there's a whole bunch of people out there, and they are specialists in SEO. So if you're interested in talking to one of these people, we've got a bunch of companies that we work with, and we're happy to refer you to them. You might find people locally. Just be really careful that when you engage one of these specialists that you know what you're getting for the money that you're paying them, and that they're giving you a report on the changes they're making and what effect that's having on your ranking. Because unfortunately there are some people out there that do this sort of thing and don't do a great job, to be really honest. So make sure that you're getting reports and things like that from your SEO specialist. And occasionally you do need that, and there's some really good people out there that can help you. And also, as I mentioned, we're going to be running some more online classes for our more advanced, so for more advanced search engine optimization. So if you've been listening today and you've been like, yep, I know that, I know that, I know that, or you're like, I'm going to go and do this, and then I want to know what's next after that, then these could be really helpful. So the first one we're doing is about increasing inquiries from your website, and this is for more service-based businesses. So if you're a service and your main goal from your website is for someone to contact you, either by phone or by email to inquire about your services, then this is the one for you. We're running this on Wednesday, September the 13th, and I will put the link into the questions section for you in a second. And what we're going to cover in this is how to get more traffic when you're in a really competitive search category, how to design your site to convert more traffic to inquiries, ways to capture more leads, and using landing pages to rank for specific service categories and locations. So if you're interested in that, I'll drop that into the chat box right now. So there it is. So that's there for all of, if you're a service business and you want to register for that right now, you can. We'll also send it out in an email tomorrow as well. So that's the first one. And the second one is for those of you who are e-commerce businesses. So if you're selling products online, then this one will be really beneficial for you. So what we're going to cover on that is how to leverage social media to build a following to get your products out there, how to use email marketing to encourage repeat purchases, using sales and promotions to incentivize those sales, and e-commerce search engine ranking techniques, so things you can do for search engines to help with that as well. So if you're interested in the e-commerce one, I'll drop that into the chat box now as well. So there you go. So feel free to register for that as well. So now we're going to take some questions. So if you've got questions about anything that we've covered today, then we can, I'll go through those now for you. And if you've got really specific questions, what we'll do, we'll cover some broad ones now, then we'll finish the webinar, but if you want to stay on the class and ask some more questions, that's totally fine. So we've got a question here from Annie. So our product is something new. So it's got a broad base audience from children to adults with multiple uses and capacities, and she's found it challenging to think of the most appropriate keywords for this, and they don't fit in a typical area such as accountants or physios. Yeah, absolutely. And so when you've got something that's quite new, that's where you need to look at other ways of getting people to your website, because if people don't know about the product, that really brand new product, they can't search for it because they don't even know it exists. And that's where things like social media marketing could be really, really beneficial, because you can get in front of people and show them the product that they didn't even know existed or they didn't know they needed. So that's where potentially then our more advanced SEO for e-commerce websites might be really great for you, Annie. So if you want to register for that, but as I said, yeah, you probably in those situations need to find other ways to get in front of people so that you can so that you can have get in front of people before they're even searching for you. So cool. A few other questions here. One question here. So what does SEO stand for? So it stands for Search Engine Optimization. So it's basically optimizing your text content for search engines. So Search Engine Optimization, and it's something that people throw around a lot. But yeah, hopefully it's something that is going to be something that you've got a bit more of an understanding about now, and you can understand how to see that. So one of the questions from Christine is, how important is it to have images on your website? So from a search point of view, images on your website they're not super helpful. There are things you can do to images to make them better for search, but the real benefit for images on your site is just to engage people while they're there. So it's more about checking, making sure it looks good and making sure the images are high quality and all that sort of thing. You can do things around They're called alt tags. If you go into our help center in Google, search alt tags, it'll explain what those are. And basically those are just keywords for images. And so you can do that inside of your website, and then that'll help them be found in Google image searches as well. But in terms of ranking from just in a normal Google search, images aren't super important there, but they do obviously help when it comes to image searches as well. So how do you measure the ranking? So how can you look at it? The key thing to do there is to actually just do a Google search, and there's a thing called Webmaster Tools that you can use as well, and that shows you how to do that. Unfortunately, Webmaster Tools is fairly complex, so that might be a bit difficult, but you can just do a Google search, and the easiest thing to do to make sure your search is really correct is to actually jump into what's called incognito mode or private browsing mode, because what that does is it forgets all of your previous search history. So what we find is that sometimes when you do lots of searches for your business, Google remembers that, or your computer remembers that, and then it shows your website a bit higher. So to get a really accurate view on that, you might just want to jump into incognito mode or into private browsing mode, and do that as well. That's a really accurate way to see where your business is ranking. So one from Carolyn. Right, okay, so there's an old website that you need to get rid of. So yeah, if that's the case, you might just need to talk to who potentially hosted your old website and get them to remove it. Also, there shouldn't be anything there if the domain name is now pointing to your new website. If you've got an old domain name, you might need to cancel that as well. So feel free, Carolyn, to flick an email through to us about that, and we can have a look at that for you. So yeah. Let's have a look. Yeah, the other thing, Carolyn, is in your Webmaster Tools, you can re-index for a new domain. So if you've set up a new domain, you can go in there and basically tell it that it needs to forget the old domain and start a new domain as well. So. So Gabriella, free courses on SEO. There's bound to be some out there. I don't know of any, and obviously this one. But if you do a Google search for that, I'm sure you'll be able to find that as well. Cool. Someone's asking here about fire safety consultancy. How do I create links from other sites to my site? Yeah, backlinks from other sites to your website is something that is really, really useful. It's really great from an SEO point of view. They need to be quality websites that you're linking back from. So make sure that they're quality. In terms of how do you create them, basically you need to have the websites that are in your area, in your industry, that you can link from. So there's no way to really create them other than finding those other websites. Potentially they're directory websites, potentially they are industry-specific websites that might list you to businesses like yours. Even getting your yellow pages listing and having that linking back, your social media, that linking back, all of those sorts of things from links as well is really important. We have a question about videos and how important they are for SEO. So videos is a really interesting thing. Again, from engagement, you can have videos are really great for continuing engagement and getting people to stay on your website for a longer amount of time. The key thing with videos is you always want to make sure they're up on YouTube, and the reason for that is YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world. It's actually owned by Google as well, and often you'll find when you do a Google search, videos will actually appear as the first search results. And so if you've got videos about specific products and specific things like that, then make sure that you have put them up on YouTube. And that the title of the video on YouTube has got the keywords in it, that the description on YouTube has the keywords in it. And there's actually some suggestions that YouTube is now able to read the video, find out what you're saying if there's voiceovers on it, and actually index those keywords that you use throughout the videos. And I think that's something that we'll see a lot more of in the future, because they're already putting subtitles on videos, and so those videos will then be indexed as well. So yeah, videos, make sure they're on YouTube. So Phil's asking about tags and descriptions, so meta tags and meta descriptions. Is this useful? Yeah, absolutely. You can rank without them, but it's still really important to put them in there. And we're actually having a discussion in the office this morning about that, where a client of ours, they had really good content on their page, all the keywords, but they didn't have that title tag and description tag in the back end. So if you're looking for that, that's inside your dashboard on Rocketspark. There's a Get Found section in there. That's where you want to put in your keywords and title tags and description tags. If you search in our support center for SEO guide, there's a whole section about that and how to write those and those sorts of things. But yeah, absolutely, Phil, they're really, really important. Helen, you're asking about how to get into incognito mode. There's a whole bunch of different ways how to do that. I know for Google Chrome, there's a little, up in the top right-hand corner, there's 3 dots. If you click on those 3 dots, one of the options there is a new incognito mode. So hopefully that is helpful. Excellent. I think we've gone through all of the questions. If we haven't answered any of them, we will email you answers a bit later on. I know Grant's been frantically pasting in some support guides and other helpful information there as well. So hopefully that's been really useful. As you leave the online class, there's going to be a little survey. It's only 4 questions, and we'd love your feedback about these types of online classes. If you'd like them run more often, what topics you'd like them run on as well, because that would be really helpful for us as well. And just remember that you've got the 2 online classes coming up in 2 weeks' time. So the first one for service businesses, increasing inquiries from your website, and then the second one is for e-commerce, specifically making more e-commerce website sales. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'd love your feedback, as I said, and if you want to register for those other online classes, feel free to click through to those links and register now. Good luck, and if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to let us know. We're more than happy to help out as well. Have a great day, everybody.